Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is February 6th. Brendan Donovan goes to the Mariners. Framber Valdez, he's a Tiger. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? Do we have a busy week to go over with all of you? Thank you so much for clicking on the video, clicking on this episode 284. We are almost at 300. That is a pretty crazy thing to think about. But how are we doing today? That's the bigger question, and hope you're all having a fantastic day, fantastic wherever you are in the world, fantastic everything. I hope you're fantastic. Let's talk baseball because that is what we're here to discuss. The first thing I'd like to discuss, maybe not the biggest bit of news from the week here, but it was one of the first things that happened from the week. Brendan Donovan was a part of a 3-team trade. He was the big headliner package between the Mariners, Cardinals, and surprise, surprise, the Tampa Bay Rays. These 3 teams got into it, and how it ends up being is that Brendan Donovan has gone from St. Louis to the Mariners. Meanwhile, the Rays are getting Ben Williamson from the Mariners. The Cardinals are getting a slew of prospects from both teams, including Urangelo Singente, I pronounced that probably wrong, Tai Pete, probably pronounced that wrong as well, Colton Ledbetter, I hope I pronounced that one better, as well as Comp B picks as well. So the Cardinals, again, embracing this new era of St. Louis baseball. The rebuild is definitely going to be happening. Maybe this isn't the last Cardinal trade that happens, but they're going to be digging in it for a little bit right now, especially the way that this offseason has gone from them trading away Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado. Now you bring in Donovan into the mix as well as Wilson Contreras. So going to be a very weird-looking Cardinals team entering 2026. Let's talk the headliners, though. Brendan Donovan to St. Louis. He is a very good ball player, if you don't know that. The one-time All-Star last year, as well as a Gold Glove in his rookie season, which he finished 3rd in the voting that year. That was back in 2022. He's been with the Cardinals all 4 years of his career, where he's accumulated 11.1 WAR across just under 500 games. He has 40 home runs, 202 RBIs. He's a 282 batting average and a 772 OPS. That is the type of player you're getting. Does not hit for pop, but he is a nice little contact bat there. He might be the Mariners' leadoff hitter come the start of the season. Again, last year was an all-star for the first time in his career with playing in 118 games. He had a total of 132 hits, 32 doubles, 50 RBIs, a 287 batting average, and a 775 OPS. He had 10 home runs. The most home runs he's hit in a single season was 14. That was back in 2024, where he played in 153 games, the most games he's played in a season. He is your typical everyday infielder, but mainly will be at second base. He's played a little left field as well, so the Mariners have some options there, but with their team, with the options they have across the diamond, second base is a likely landing spot for Donovan to be the everyday second baseman. Of course, they did lose Jorge Polanco to the Mets in this offseason. So they had a hole to fill, and they filled it up with Donovan, who, again, left-handed hitter, high contact, not going to be a lot of power. He's got decent speed, and he's a decent glove as well. As we mentioned, the Gold Glove in 2022, the first year of his career. So yeah, Mariners, great addition. Great, fill in the slot, second base there without paying too much. They do end up losing Ben Williamson, who played some third base for them last year in 2025, and played a pretty good first base for them for a surprising, pop-up kid here. At the age of 24, he played in 85 games. He lodged a 1.3 WAR for the Mariners in that time period. 70 hits, had his first and only home run in the majors, 21 RBIs. He had a 253 batting average and a 604 OPS. Didn't have really the eye-popping numbers when it came to the power and extra base hits, but he was getting on base. He was driving in some runs. 21 RBIs is nothing too shabby in 85 games. He also drove himself in, or scored a run. 36. He had 36 runs for the Mariners last year. So, those are decent numbers for a 24-year-old who you kind of don't see coming and just kind of shows up one day in the locker room. And then you're like, yeah, you know what? This is a good kid. Now he will end up on the Tampa Bay Rays, who always love to involve themselves with these three-team trades. They saw a statistic. This was the third three-team trade. We've had three of them this offseason. And the Rays have been a part of all of them. The first one, of course, that one was with the Pirates, and I believe the Angels was that one. Then they got into one with the Reds where they ended up with Gavin Lux. They've traded away Brandon Lau. They've done all sorts of stuff. They love their three-team trades, but even so, there's been 6 total three-team trades that have happened since the 2023-2024 offseason. Of those 6, the Rays have been involved in 5 of them. So, kind of like a little weird niche that they love to do. They love these little three-team trades. They love to just kind of, third wheel the party a little bit. But hey, it works for them, so keep on doing it. And it's fun and exciting too. It means a little bit more exciting. I love the three-team trade. So, good for him. Good for the Rays and Ben Williamson. You're going to get even more of an opportunity in Tampa than you would have in the Mariners camp. So, I think that's a win for him. You get more playing time, and he'll probably be close to an everyday player, or at least can earn himself easier a spot on the everyday roster in Tampa over a Seattle team, which is very stacked and is most likely going to be the favorites to win the AL West again entering 2026. Jesus Christ, I did say 2025, but we live in 2026, and my guy Framber Valdez, he's getting a new home as well. One of the last big free agents that were available still on the market has signed with the Detroit Tigers. It's a 3-year deal worth $115 million. Now, there are deferrals in the deal that I know of. But yeah, Framber Valdez, very good pitcher, deservingly of a big contract. And I mean, he's going to get close to what? An AAV of 40? If there was no deferrals, that's like $38 million a year, over $38 million a year. And again, with the way the pitchers get paid these days and the way, baseball players in general get paid these days, it is a valuable, signing for the Tigers, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, he's a 2-time All-Star, including the 2022 World Series winner. He was part of the Astros that year. He's been a part of the Astros every year of his 8-year career going back to 2018. He has finished top 10 in MVP voting in 3 years, 2022, 2023, and 2024, including getting MVP votes as well. Of course, 22 and 23, those were his all-star years where he's been getting, 3 complete games, 2 complete games, a shutout here and there. Across the 8 years he spent with the Astros, he has about 19 WAR, exactly 18.9. He's 81 and 52 in terms of a win-loss record. And of 188 games where he started, 166 of them, he has a 3.36 ERA across 1,080 innings and 2/3 with over 1,000 strikeouts. He has 9 complete games and 3 shutouts in that time as well. A very good left-handed pitcher. He will be pairing up nicely with another left-handed pitcher that the Tigers have here. Part of the reason why I think this one was delayed so much is because of some of the personality stuff that we saw with Framber back this year. That weird moment with the catcher where, he asked him to step off, and then he did, but he was upset, and then he threw one at him and crossed him up on purpose, and then they hit the home run. It was a very weird, sequence that day. last year with the Astros, was not an all-star for the second year in a row here, but did have another good year, 3.8 WAR, a 13 and 11 win-loss record, 3.66 ERA across 31 starts, 192 innings, 187 strikeouts as well. You look at his starts as well. I mean, 31 in 2025, 28 in 2024, 31 in 23, 31 in 22. I mean, in the last 4 years, he's missed maybe 2 or 3 starts. So he is a healthy guy who's going to go out there, give you 6, 7 innings, maybe give up 2 runs on a daily basis, have a couple hiccups here and there. But he is a very good pitcher and will be pairing up nicely with another good pitcher on the Tigers, which is kind of what makes this deal slightly of a question mark, and also brings us to our next talking point, which was Tarik Skubal and his arbitration hearing. Yes, the arbitration hearing, they're being done currently. Some have already been handled, some still being handled, some haven't started yet. But Tarik Skubal's has started and finished, and I wanted to talk about this one specifically because of how much it actually means in terms of the arbitration process in general and going into the CBA hearings next year. Tarik Skubal filed in at $32 million, while the Tigers filed in at $19 million. Now, Soto, he had the record in his final year of arbitration at $31 million, and David Price had the pitching record back at $19.75 million, which was with the Tigers back in 2015. That's how long that record had stood. And yes, I did say had, because Tarik Skubal did win his arbitration hearing. His salary will be his requested $32 million, which not only breaks Soto's record by $1 million, but it absolutely shatters the pitching record that David Price held with the Tigers at $19.75 million back in 2015. Some funny stuff that I saw come out of it, including the fact that Tarik Skubal did bring both his Cy Young awards to the arbitration meeting, did not need to take them out, but they were there just in case. We saw something similar to this with Tim Lincecum back with his arbitration hearings back in, I think, 2010 with his Cy Young awards. He actually did bring those out during his meeting, funny enough. But again, this is kind of the head scratcher move and why I'm not sure exactly how this season will play out for Detroit, because you signed Framber Valdez, a lefty, for 3 years and $115 million, nearly $40 million a year. Yet you want your ace, your guy, who, by the way, is the back-to-back Cy Young pitcher and still, in my mind, the best pitcher in baseball right now. Still, I would say better than Paul Skeens. He's a 2-time Cy Young, 2-time All-Star, 2-time ERA title. He had the Triple Crown last year. Like, he is that guy. He finished 7th in MVP voting in 2024 and 5th in MVP voting last year. Finished 5th as a pitcher. That, you don't see that. The back-to-back Cy Young winner across the last 2 years has been phenomenal. He's been healthy. He's been great. 62 games, a 31-10 record, a 2.3 ERA, and in 387 innings, he has 469 strikeouts. He's been so incredible. And when you look at those numbers and you match them up with Framber Valdez's numbers, I mean, there's no contest who the better pitchers is. If you take Framber's last 2 years, you're talking about a guy, 59 starts, that's less. A 3.3 ERA, that's much higher than Tarik Skubal's. A 28-18 win-loss record, that's worse. He had 8.2 WAR, that's about 4 or 5 points off of what Skubal's number is. He has 368 innings, which is less than Skubal, and 356 strikeouts, which is 100 less than Skubal. You're willing to pay this guy almost $40 million, but you wouldn't give your ace starter, what, 25 at least? You could have at least gone into the hearing with under 20 for what Skubal had done. I mean, that was just a hilariously low number. And honestly, Skubal could have filed in at like $36 million. I think he would have gotten that. because 19 million for the back-to-back Cy Young winner with a triple crown in the process of that, to be getting paid $19 million is laughably pathetic on the Tigers' point. And this kind of makes me wonder, depending on how the Tigers season goes, will Skubal finish this year as a Tiger? I mean, that's what I'd be worried about as a Tigers fan. Because again, the reason I mentioned David Price specifically is because David Price in 2015, the year he won his arbitration 19.75, I believe it wasn't actually a win. I think they settled in the meeting, but I think it was favoring David Price. So the Tigers upped their offer and they were able to come to an agreement. But David Price that year did not finish the season as a Detroit Tiger. He was traded at that deadline to the Toronto Blue Jays, who went on to win the AL East and get to the ALCS that year. You could be looking at a similar thing with Skubal this year if the Tigers, have a toughish year and get to the All-Star break and they're about 500. They're like third in the AL Central. There could be a very good point that Tarik Skubal gets traded at the deadline to a team who, I mean, that could make a difference. He's going to be a free agent next year. And I mean, you just proved what? Like, I don't understand the thought process there. You're willing to pay Framber, almost 40 million, but you wouldn't give Skubal 20. So, like, how is your contract extensions going to go? Like, what do you think Skubal's going to be looking for? He's going to be getting probably what? 42 million, 43 million a year, depending on what he wants. Like, that's how good. If Skubal goes out here and wins another Cy Young award, we got to talk about Tarik Skubal as like the best. This could be like the best stint a pitcher has ever had in baseball. 3-time back-to-back Cy Young winner. These days, that is rare to see. I don't think we've ever seen that. I can't tell you the last pitcher to have won back-to-back Cy Young winners on top of my head here. But yeah, I mean, great for Skubal for winning his case easily. But again, the Framber signing is great for Detroit. I mean, Tarik Skubal, Framber Valdez, both lefties, 1-2. That's a lethal 1-2 combo for the Tigers. But again, you're paying your number 2 guy close to 40. You didn't want to pay your number 1 guy over 20. Now he's making over 30. And depending on how your season goes, you might want to dump that off somewhere else. And then who knows how the offseason gets handled. But it's going to be a very interesting year for Tarik Skubal. He's definitely the prize at the end of this season for one special team. And God, let's hope that's not the Dodgers, because boy, do they not need Tarik Skubal. Moving on here, let's go over a couple of one-year deals that were handed out. The first being Jose Urquidy, who is heading on a one-year deal with $1.5 million to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Urquidy, of course, was with the Tigers last year, dealing with injuries since 2023. He only made 16 starts that year. That was when he was with the Astros. Did not pitch in 2024, but last year came back for a small, very small sample size out of the Tigers bullpen, and definitely struggled a little bit. Through 2 games, he threw 2 innings, 4 hits, and 2 earned runs. So again, small sample size, you can't really tell. Of course, you remember him back in like 2021, his first like major year for the Astros. He was 8-3 that year across 20 starts, a 3.62 ERA. His numbers across his career don't jump out as anything wow potential, but I mean, a 1 year, $1.5 million, I think he's worth that. And I think, especially for a Pirates team, they could use all the pitching they can get. Urquidy could be a guy. He can turn back the clock a little bit, and he could pitch really well. So there's definitely upside here for the Pirates and for Urquidy as well if he pitches well. And if he struggles, it's $1.5 million. Even to the Pirates, that's not the craziest of deals. The Padres, they are signing Miguel Andujar. It's a 1-year deal worth $4 million. Andujar, you remember the name with the Yankees. We thought he was going to be the next big wow factor after coming in second in the Rookie of the Year voting back in 2018. 2019 was a big slump year, dealing with injuries, barely played, but when he was playing, it was atrocious. COVID, small sample size again, was not really playing much either. I mean, in the 60-game season, he made 21 starts. Um, and since then, it's been just hurt playing and tough playing and struggles and on and off stuff, and his numbers just never really showed. I mean, that 2018 where he finished second in rookie year voting, that's the only season he's played over 100 games. So it's always been small sample sizes. Last year, he was starting the year with the Athletics, got into 60 games where he hit a 298 batting average and a 765 OPS, some of the best baseball he had played in a long time. But then was traded at the deadline to the Reds and was even better, if you believe it or not. In 34 games, he had 37 hits. He hit 4 home runs. He had a 359 batting average and a 944 OPS. Yes, a small stint of only 34 games, but those are some eye-popping numbers. Between his time with the Athletics and the Reds last year, played in 94 games where he hit 102 hits, 10 home runs, which was the most home runs he had hit since his rookie season in 2018, where he hit 27 home runs. The drop off from 27 to 10. Every other year has been 6 or lower, but 10, he got back to double digits. But most importantly, his batting average was 318. His OPS was 822. Those were both the best he's ever played since 2018. He's 7 years, 8 years removed from that season. But last year showed that their talent is still there. It's still there. He just needs to be able to stay healthy and consistent. And that is what the Padres are hoping for here, giving him that 1 year, $4 million contract. There's definitely a spot that he can earn in the starting lineup, but at worst, it's a bench bat who can come out for pinch hit appearances, and his bat's still there. He still has it. And the home run numbers, like, yes, 10 isn't as many as you see some players hit these days, but there's still the potential there for Andujar to kind of maybe just tap into a little bit of that 2018 form, because that was, it's still his peak. It's been a downward decline of his career, but last year showed a little bit of hope for Andujar. Another signing here, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, signing a 1 year with $6 million guaranteed to the Boston Red Sox. Of course, the Gold Glove winner. He's played all over the diamond. He's played all over the league, according with Texas, New York, Pittsburgh, and Toronto. 2 separate stints in Toronto, 2 separate stints as well with the Pirates, and not really because it was the end of 24 and the beginning of 25. It's funny, actually. In 2024, he started as a Blue Jay, ended up on the Pirates. In 2025, he started as a Pirate and ended up on the Blue Jays, which is really funny here. But Blue Jays, he's been with the Yankees, so the Red Sox are going to be his 3rd team in the AL East. Across an 8-year career, which started back in 2018, he has a 15.9 WAR. He has 815 hits, 36 home runs, a 262 batting average, and a 660 OPS. The bat is solid. It's not going to be anything eye-popping. Definitely a below-average bat. His glove is great. Wouldn't put him into the excellent tiers. Of course, only has the 1 Gold Glove, which he did win with Texas back in 2020 during the COVID year. But his defense does show from time to time. Of course, his moment with Toronto sliding in, it's the potential World Series winning run, just coming up inches short. It's all sorts of things. He's definitely a memorable ball player here, IKF. Heading to Boston, not sure exactly what the plan is for him, how they want to use him. Boston kind of all over the place with some of their young kids, which ones are coming back from injury, which ones aren't. Where do you want to play Marcelo Mayer? At most, I would say is most likely a bench bat. I mean, Mayer at third base. You have Trevor Story, who will be playing shortstop, and I believe they have Rami Gonzalez, who would start out at second base there. IKF is more of a, in case someone gets hurt, depth piece, bench bat, filler in, but, I'd assume you'd see him pretty decently, I would hope, for Boston entering 2026. And the last of the 4-year deals here to talk about, well, not 4-year deals, 4 one-year deals. Carlos Santana, he is signing with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a 1-year deal, $2 million. The soon-to-be 40-year-old Carlos Santana is playing in what is his 17th season. It's going to be his 9th franchise that he has joined. Of course, the most he has played has been with Cleveland, started his career with Cleveland, came back to Cleveland after a small stint in Philly. But he's been kind of a 1-year journeyman ever since, including Philly, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Seattle, Milwaukee, Chicago, most recently back in 2025. And he's gone back to Cleveland on 3 separate occasions here, of course. Started his career with Cleveland back in 2010, had the year in Philly in 2018 before 2 more years in Cleveland in 2019 and 20. That 2019 season was very special. It's his only All-Star appearance as well as his only Silver Slugger. That's how great that random year in 2019 was. And then from there, joined them once again at the start of this season in 2025 and was traded to the Cubs at the deadline. He also has a Gold Glove not last year, 2 years before in 2024. That was with the Twins. A very surprising Gold Glove handed out to him. When I was looking at it, actually, you have Cleveland, you have the Royals, you have the Twins. He's missing the Tigers and the White Sox for his AL Central trip around the league. But yes, 1-time All-Star, a Silver Slugger, a Gold Glove winner, and he's about a month and a half away before he turns 40 years old. 16-year career, 39.3 WAR, over 2,000 games, 1,880 hits. He has 335 home runs, a 241 batting average, and a 777 OPS. He's played first, he's played catcher, he's played DH. I think he has a day in the outfield even as well, but mostly he will be a first baseman for Arizona. And that kind of cements this really solid infield that they're going to be bringing out in 2026. Carlos Santana at first, Ketel Marte at second, Geraldo Perdomo at short, and of course they did trade for Nolan Arenado at third. That is a really fun, infield lineup here. They've got some depth as well, so much so that they even decided to make a trade this week as Blaze Alexander is heading to Baltimore from Arizona in exchange for Cade Stroud, Jose Mejia, and Wellington Aracena, I believe is the pronunciation there. The big names here, of course, Blaze Alexander and Cade Stroud are the ones that have had some major league time. Blaze Alexander made his debut back in 2024, kind of showed a really strong first 2 weeks in the league, but then started to slump after that. Finished with a 247 batting average and a 664 OPS. Last year did get some time as well, 74 games where he was a lot better. He had 31 runs, he had 28 RBIs, 7 home runs, a 230 batting average, and a 706 OPS. So across his 135 games in the 2 years, he has 94 hits, just 6 more from 100. 10 home runs, 49 RBIs, a 237 batting average, a 688 OPS, and he's going to be 27 years old this year, but there is still a chance for him to, maybe be somewhere in the Baltimore lineup besides depth piece bench bat there, but that is what Baltimore is getting. Besides the 2 prospects that the Diamondbacks are getting, they're also picking up Cade Stroud, who made his major league debut this year, and it was somewhat impressive. Out of the bullpen for Baltimore, he pitched in 25 games, accumulating 26 and a third innings, only gave up 1 home run, 5 earned runs total across those 26 innings. He had 24 strikeouts. He had a 1.71 ERA. I mean, 25 games isn't a crazy long sample size for relievers. You're typically looking for, a great reliever will make over 50 appearances out of the bullpen, 50 to sometimes 70 even. So 25 is on the lower side here, but what the numbers will show you is that he's got high upside, and that is a big, piece for what will be the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen. So I think it's a good, deal for Arizona. Blaze Alexander, you have this extra depth piece after you sign Santana. You send him over, Cade Stroud, he'll come over. You add up to your bullpen. Your infield is still very good. For Baltimore, you have a good bullpen. I'm not sure how, Felix Bautista plays into that or some other guys there. But yeah, if Gunnar goes down with an injury, you have a big hole there. Blaze Alexander is a bit more of a proven, major league hitter, has done it. And again, sometimes you just need that change of scenery. Sometimes you just need the playing time. But there are some players who, they find out themselves on a new team and they break out as a superstar. Blaze Alexander could be that for Baltimore. So, Baltimore fans, I think you should, embrace Blaze Alexander with open arms here. And I think for Diamondbacks fans, Cade Stroud could be a big piece in the bullpen for a potential 2026 big year for Arizona. So that's the trade done there. Something else to talk about with Arizona. Boy, we're littered with Arizona. David Peralta has officially announced his retirement from the game of baseball. Of course, David Peralta spent most of his 11-year career with the Diamondbacks. In fact, he spent 9 of those 11 years with the Diamondbacks. He also had a small half stint with the Rays, Dodgers, and Padres as well. He was traded from the Diamondbacks to the Rays in his last year in 2022. Signed a 1-year deal with the Dodgers in 2023 and a 1-year deal with the Padres in 2024. He did not play at all last year. No one signed him, and I guess, free agency wasn't working well for him again this year. Of course, he was going to be 38 years old this year, so it was probably a little bit past his time, even though he did play pretty well in his 91 games that he got with the Padres in 2024. But we've seen even better players not find deals after, a really solid year. He got a Silver Slugger with the Diamondbacks back in 2018, followed it up the next year with a Gold Glove in 2019. Across his 11 years, 17 WAR. He played in 1,232 games with 1,166 hits. He had 125 home runs, 569 RBIs, 526 runs. He had a 278 batting average and a 782 OPS. A very good ball player. Should be one of those players that will find himself in the Hall of Pretty Good sooner or later. But yeah, Dave Peralta, great personality, very fun to watch, and hopefully enjoys his retirement. Of course, he was on the World Baseball Classic team back in, I believe, 2023 with Venezuela, but I kind of forget. But that leads us to our next talking point here, which is the World Baseball Classic in general, but specifically, last night, the rosters were revealed. The official rosters, of course, they are subject to change based off of injuries or family matters, etc., as any sports and any baseball roster in general across all of Major League Baseball. But yes, the rosters are official as it stands now, and we are getting ready for the World Baseball Classic. I just want to go over the 20 teams, maybe mention a few players from the Major League teams that maybe you don't know. But I'm very excited for this baseball. Of course, we will be covering it and talking about it here on the middle of the order. So just want to give special, mentions here to some teams and some players here. We'll start, of course, with USA. Obviously, I could name the entire team of USA because they're all Major League players that we all know and love. The most notable ones, though, of course, include Aaron Judge, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Bobby Witt Jr., Bryce Harper. So the list would go on and on. Japan's got some fun ones, including Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Murataki Murakami, who just signed with the White Sox, and Kazumo Okamoto, who just signed with the Blue Jays. The Dominican Republic will feature guys like Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Ketel Marte, some fun names there. Venezuela will have Acuna, Jackson Chourio, both Ranger Suarez and Eugenio Suarez as well. Mexico, Randy Arozarena is back. They'll have Alejandro Kirk behind the dish, Jarren Duran in the outfield, some good names there. The Netherlands will feature guys like Xander Bogaerts, Ozzy Albies, and don't you know it, Didi Gregorius and Jonathan Scope. That's also the fun part about the World Baseball Classic. Sometimes you'll get players who you haven't seen play in Major League games for a few years now, but they're still playing it in other leagues, and they come back in the World Baseball Classic. I'm excited to watch these two play, as is some other guys who we'll be mentioning here coming up. Italy will have Vinny Pasquantino, Dominic Canzone, and one of the Royals' top prospects in Jack Caglione. So there'll be some fun names there. Canada will feature the Naylor brothers, both Josh and Bo Naylor. Tyler O'Neill, Otto Lopez. How about Denzel Clark? Let's see how many crazy outfield catches he'll have throughout the World Baseball Classic. Puerto Rico will have Nolan Arenado, Eddie Rosario, remember him, MJ Melendez. There's been some issues with Puerto Rico. They were talking about dropping out because of insurance reasons, and it kind of sucks overall here because a lot of these players got denied insurance. Guys like Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa, Jose Barrios, Emilio Pagan, Alexis Diaz, all guys who were eligible for Puerto Rico, but insurance issues caused them to not be on the rosters, which really does suck, and that is a problem and will need to be fixed for the next World Baseball Classic because it's not fair to these guys, as is other guys. You know, Puerto Rico's definitely had the most issue problems here. Venezuela did have a couple. Jose Altuve, Miguel Rojas, both not playing. USA, Mike Trout had insurance issues. I mean, that is the guy. He was the captain of the USA team in 2023. And what, just 3 years later, it's insurance issues and we don't want you kind of thing? Like, I don't know exactly, but it's messed up. It's wrong. Javier Baez is another guy on Puerto Rico who is not playing. Originally thought was insurance issues. Could also have been the case, but it was also because of a weed suspension back in 2023. Of course, now weed is not a major league violation. It is just in the World Baseball Classic, so he's not eligible this year to play in the World Baseball Classic. Would be, I believe, next time it rolls around, but he'll have no issue with the Tigers at the start of the 2026 season as well. Moving on here, Cuba will have Yoan Moncada, and the most exciting name here, 44-year-old Alexi Ramirez. Yes, he last played in Major League Baseball back in 2016. He will be playing and starting for Cuba. Great Britain will have Jazz Chisholm, Harry Ford, Nate Eaton. That's some notable names there. Nicaragua will have Mark Vientos as kind of the major league headliner there, with Jeter Downs as a interesting follow-up there. Israel will have Spencer Horwitz, Zach Geloff, Harrison Bader. Some fun names there. Colombia, Gio Urshela, Donovan Solano, and a guy I'm very excited to watch him play baseball again, Jorge Alfaro. I loved Jorge Alfaro. I'm excited to see him once again. Brazil, the most notable name here, Dante Bichette Jr. Yes, not Dante Bichette, not Bo Bichette, but Dante Bichette Jr., Bichette's older brother. I believe it's older. But Dante Bichette Jr., he will be playing for Team Brazil. I think Bo wanted to as well. Not sure why he wasn't, if it was something with the Mets approvals or if it was something with his insurance, no idea, but he's not listed as a part of the Brazil roster. Panama will have Logan Allen, Jose Caballero, and Edmundo Sosa. Czechia will have Terran Valvera as kind of the name to know, I guess. Australia, Curtis Mead, the Guardians' top prospect in Travis Bazana. He's part of that team as well. Korea will have Young Ho Lee, Hai Sung Kim, as well as Hyunjin Ryu. That is probably the most excited I am to watch. I'm definitely going to be watching the start he makes. And then lastly, the last 20th team here, Chinese Taipei, which will feature Yu Chang, Stuart Fairchild. There's a couple names there. Of course, Yu Chang, not Major League talent, but boy, he is a guy. I don't think he was ever in the Major Leagues. Let me double check that. But I do remember him from the World Baseball Classic last year, and that is what is very exciting about this, is you get to learn players that you may never see in Major League Baseball, but that doesn't mean they aren't great players. Yu Chang was a very standout guy. What's really cool as well, not last year, but in 2023, MLB The Show released cards based around the World Baseball Classic. So you got to see some guys who, aren't in the game typically and would never be in the game, but got to be in the game, that year because of the World Baseball Classic. I'm assuming they're going to do, well, not assuming, I know they're going to do something extremely similar, if not close to the exact same thing this year with, depending on how those games go, you'll have players from those teams and from those, countries that will be playable in MLB The Show who wouldn't typically because they're not in Major League Baseball. So it's very cool. I'm very excited for this tournament to kick off, which does start in just under a month now. The near 2-week tournament begins March 4th with Chinese Taipei versus Australia as the first and only game that day. Of course, you'll see these teams in action beforehand as some exhibition games versus some major league teams for, exhibition for spring training, etc. here. But yeah, March 4th, that is the first game. The pool play, the 4 pools, that will be happening between March 4th and March 11th. They'll have an off day on the 12th. Before the quarterfinals begin, those games will be 2 on the 13th and 2 on the 14th. The semifinal games will have 1 on the 15th and 1 on the 16th, which will bring you to the finale on the 17th, which will crown the next World Baseball Classic champion. Will it be a new one or will it be a repeat? Of course, Japan is looking to defend their title back from 2023. But these games are great. Of course, 13 days of international baseball. Very happy, very exciting stuff there. So yeah, get excited for that. The last thing I want to mention, not something I would typically mention on a day-to-day, but as a Blue Jays fan and as someone who is very admirable of this man, I want to give him his flowers. Buck Martinez, this morning, just before I started recording today's episode, he announced his retirement from the booth. The voice that I've heard growing up, every game I've ever watched on TV, and of course, if you've ever watched a Blue Jays game, you've probably one time or another have heard Buck Martinez's voice. A very iconic home run call, and just an absolute amazing human being, an amazing human in general. He was traded from Milwaukee to Toronto back in 1981 when he was still playing as a catcher. He got here when he was 32 years old. He finished his career with the Blue Jays playing in 6 seasons. He went from 1981 to 1986 with the Blue Jays. From there, had some time for himself, did some little coachings on the side, etc. He became the Blue Jays manager in 2001, stayed there another year, so he had 2 seasons as Blue Jays manager from 2001 and 2002, before eventually becoming part of the broadcast booth. And for the last couple of years, it's been Buck Martinez and Dan Shulman who has been able to grace Blue Jays games with their voices, with their home run calls. Buck Martinez, of course, at one point was the main guy in the booth. Now was kind of towards the end, kind of color commentary for Dan Shulman. Buck, the last couple of years, was dealing with sicknesses, with cancers, and spent some time on the booth, off the booth. There was a time where I thought he wouldn't come back. I think last year, but he came back. Last year I meant 2024. But he's been in and out of the booth the last couple of months in 2025. And, it was very great to hear him during the postseason, during the Blue Jays, big run to the World Series here. And, it was absolute just like, honestly, it's a privilege that I got, that he was the Blue Jays commentator, that he's gotten to do this. I mean, his home run call is just so iconic. And I've already joked about it with friends. I'm waiting for this to his name to be in the level of excellence, because if there's any guy that, is a part of the Blue Jays in terms of the level of excellence, Buck Martinez is definitely up there as one of the greats. And I hope that is something that happens over the next 2 or 3 years, because he deserves it. And you never know how much time you have. And, obviously, like, again, he's been dealing with sickness and illness. And in his statement, he didn't say that was part of the decision. It was a decision that him and his wife were just talking and, decided that now was right. Obviously, I'm sure those, his health came into, part of that discussion, but did not mention that. But regardless, Buck Martinez will always be one of, if not, no, he is my all-time favorite commentator. I will miss his home run calls deeply in Jays games this year, and I'm excited to just be watching, compilations of his calls, his greatest calls coming up now. But yes, that leaves us with this episode here. Bit of a longer one in terms of recent ones here. Of course, we got to look at the schedule coming up because we're getting closer and closer to spring training. Again, a month away from the World Baseball Classic, and we still need to start and go over our DOPs, our division outlooks, and predictions there. So a lot coming up here. The baseball season is coming rapidly. Get excited for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you everybody so much, and I will see you next time.